Welcome to Everything and Anything, the channel that helps you with everything and anything. Today we're going to look into 10 different formulas that you need to know if you apply for a job in data analysis or if you want to learn more about data analysis. We're going to look into SUMIF, average, COUNTIF, max, min, a VLOOKUP, an if, what is concatenate, left and right formulas. I'll also add a few more ones which are easy to understand when you know the first ones, such as the SUMIF, AVERAGEIFS, COUNTIFs, etc. So first, before we start, we need to find our data. I've linked in the description below the data that I'm using, which is the employee sample data, which is the one I've used in previous videos as well, such as the pivot table videos. It's quite easy to understand, that's why we are using this one today. If you're not familiar with it, just pause right now and look into the data. You will see there's quite a lot of information here. To help with this exercise today, I've decided to write a few questions. So let's start with SUMIF. Again, SUMIF will help you add values based on certain criteria. You can use this formula for a lot of different things, like adding up cells for a specific product, but today we want to know what is the sum of salary paid to female. And we're going to go into the cell, equal. We're going to type SUMIF, and as you're going to see, you're going to have different SUMIF. You're going to have the first one, and then SUMIFs. SUMIFs is because you want to base your calculation on more than one criteria. For example, what is the sum of salary paid to female living in the US? So you would have not only the female criteria, but also the US criteria. For today, we're only going to look into SUMIF. So let's double click on SUMIF. Once we have that, it tells us to look at the range. So the range for us is the condition. So the condition is being a female. So let's go into our data. We can see that the column F is the one giving us this range. So we're going to select the column F. We're going to then have a comma. Then we're going to do equal. We wanted the criteria to be equal to female. So I'm going to write female exactly the same way. And then the sum range. So the sum range, so you do again a comma, and then sum range will be the annual salary. Certain Excel will let you do it like this. However, other version will not let you put the equal like this. So let's see which version I have today. So I'm going to press enter. As you can see again, it's not recognizing the equal. So what we're going to do is we're going to add quotation mark on each side of the equal and then the symbol for end. Let's try again. And here we have. So as you can see here, you have the amount of the sum of all of the salary paid to all females in this company. What we can do is we can enter the currency. So by then I just go into the high tab and then I just click on currency. So on an annual basis, 58 million is paid to female in this company. Let's go into the next equation, which is an average. What is the average age of our employee? The average is a formula that helps you understand a range of numbers. It could be useful for finding the average, for example, of a price, of average of a score. You have different type of average. You even have AVERAGEIF, which is the one we'll look after. So first is average. Let's do equal. We're going to type AV, and then you're going to have the average here. Let's double click here. Then we're going to find the first number and second number. So I want, again, the average of the age. So I'm going to my data, and then I can see I have in column H all of the age. So what I can do is I can just go on the first cell, and then I'm going to use my keyboard and press Ctrl, Shift, arrow down. It's going to select all of my data until the last line. And then I'm going to close the parenthesis and then just enter. Here again, we have the average age. Again, an average age is nicer if it's a full number. So I'm just going to decrease the decimal to 0. What is the average age of our employee working in the US? So I'm going to click on equal and then average. And then you're going to see you have a lot of different range of average. you have the average if, which is going to be based on one condition. And again, as we had the SUMIFs, we have the AVERAGEIFS with an S at the end, which is based on two conditions. Today, we're just going to look into one condition, which is going to be the average if, because we want to know the average age of employee in the US, sorry. So the range for the condition is the US. So let's go into our data and find which column shows us the US. So as you can see here, we have the country column, which is giving us the United States. So this is what we will use. I'm going to select this column. And then again, as I've done for SUMIF, we're going to put a comma and write the criteria. The criteria will be quotation mark, equal, quotation mark, the end, again, quotation mark, and then we're going to write United States. And then quotation mark. Then comma, and then we have to select the average range. So the average range for us is the age. So we select the age. And then we close the parenthesis. And then we just select enter. Again, the average age of our employee working in the US is 40. It's quite interesting to know that it's similar to the average age of our employee throughout the country. It could be quite different based on the city that you're working with, but also the job that you're offering in each city. Now that we've done SUMIF and average, let's start with COUNTIF. The COUNTIF formula helps you count the number of cells that meet certain criteria. For example, you could use this formula to count the number of times a certain keywords appear, certain keyword appear in a document, or how many here employees are female. There's an S missing here. Are female. So we're going to do a count, and we're going to do a COUNTIF. So let's start with spelling count. And again, here you're going to have different offers. You can count how many people we have on how many data lines we have in this document. However, because we have the unique employee ID for me, I don't think it's that interesting here. We have a distinct count. So for example, if you would have an employee ID which repeats, it's interesting to know how many distinct ones there is. Today we're going to look into COUNTIF. But again, you can use COUNTIFs. The only difference between both is one use one criteria, which is a COUNTIF. If you want more than one, you use COUNTIFs. Let's go into COUNTIF. So again, here it's easy. We just use the range and then the criteria. So for the range, I'm going to go into data and I'm going to go and count the number of people which are female. So I'm going to select the gender and then I'm going to put a comma, quotation mark, equal, quotation mark, and then quotation mark, and then type female. And then I close the quotation mark and close the parenthesis. Here I know that out of the 1,000 employees that we've looked at the beginning, we have 515 which are female. Let's go into the next equation. The next equation is max. The max is a formula which shows the maximum value in a range of number. Could be useful for finding the highest sales figure for a particular product, or like here, to find the person who is paid the highest in the company. So we start again with equal, and we're going to begin to type max. Let's double click on max here, and then they're going to ask you number 1 and number 2. What we're going to do is we're going to select a range here. So I'm going to go into data, and I'm going to select the range I want the max to be pulled out from. As I'm searching for annual salary, I'm going to want to find the maximum salary. So I'm going to select all of those. So let me select the full column and then close the parenthesis. Here, as you can see, I can find the maximum salary, which is $258,734. Just to verify it, we're going to go into data. We've already filtered it. I'm going to go into... So here I know that the highest one is $258,734. Let's look into the minimum salary. The minimum calculation. This formula returns the minimum value in a range of number. Is useful for finding several data such as the lowest temperature in a set of weather, the lowest grade, or the lowest employee rate. Here we're going to look at the minimum salary. So we're going to do again equal minimum, you double click, and then you're going to select the range. So we're going to go into data and we're going to select the annual salary. Again, we're going to close the parenthesis and enter, and we have the smallest salary paid on an annual basis, which is 40,352. Now that you've finished the minimum salary, let's look into VLOOKUP. VLOOKUP I personally use on a daily basis in my job, and I would recommend any employee to know how to use those. So we have decided that for the 4 employees that we have here, we want to know what is their salary, if they are all female, what is their city and country combined. If they are female or male, I just want a letter rather than the full female or male word spelled, and what is their hire year. So to find the salary of those employees, I'm going to do a VLOOKUP. A VLOOKUP is an easy equation which is going to search a value in one column of data and returns it to a corresponding value in another column of data. So for example here, I want to match Lunalu with her salary. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a VLOOKUP. So V, I'm going to select it, and then we're going to go into the lookup value, which is Lunalu, comma, the table array. So again, I want to find the first column will be the where your lookup value is. So the full name is the first column, and then I'm going to go until the annual salary. So here we know that the annual salary is this column. So it's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, the 9th column. So I do a comma, and then I said that I want it to look at the 9th column in that range. And then I want to have a true or false. What is the difference between both? Sometimes you might misspell the name and you might want something which is an approximate match, apologies, or you want a false. I personally know that the match is exact, and I would recommend always that you ensure your match are exact to make sure that your data are the cleanest. And then we close the parenthesis. So here again, we know that Lunalu, her salary will be 64,208. Let's verify that. So I'm just going to select Lunalu. I'm going to go into full name. I'm going to put the search in the name, and I'm going to search for Lunalu. As you can see, the second is called Lunalua, the first one Lunalu, and the salary is 64,208. And if you go back into the question, this is the salary that was brought. So then I can just select in the corner here and bring it down. It will just change, as you're going to see, only the first part. So we're going to have B16, B17, and other first cell value. So again, it's going to look at the value which is next to it. So here are the salary for all those employees. The next question is, are those employees all female? For this formula, we will use an if. But first, I will go into the concatenate and the rest before coming back to this one. So this is a concatenate. This formula joins together 2 or more pieces of text into one cell. It can be useful when you combine first and last name into one field, but here we're going to do countries and cities. So I'm going to do city and country, and I'm going to do enter and then concatenate. And as you can see here, we're going to have concatenate function, and they're going to ask me for text number 1 and text number 2. So here, what I'm going to do is just going to look at the different cities and countries that they're in. So for example, here, if I want for Lunalu, I would be doing countries, comma, city, and then close the parenthesis, and then you have everything together. You can add things in between. So for example, if I would want to add a space, you open the quotation mark, space, close the quotation mark, and then enter. And then you're going to have United States, space, Miami, or you can put here, and so you can have both of those divided. What is interesting here is we had the filter on for Lunalu, so we were able to find easily what was a country and city. It's going to be a little bit more complicated if we have to go through each employee. So why don't we use the VLOOKUP that we did previously? Let's start. We're going to replace the data in L17 by a VLOOKUP. So the first is the country. So let's do a VLOOKUP. We want a VLOOKUP of Lunalu. We're going to go into our data. So Lunalu, which is the name, needs to be the first one. And then we want to first show the country, but let's select both country and city so it's easier than to copy paste it. Then it's going to ask us our column index number. So we know full name is first. So second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, 11th. So the column that you want is 11th, and then we want it false because we know it's going to be an exact match. And then I'm going to close the parenthesis, and then what we're going to do is we're going to copy this VLOOKUP here. We're going to copy paste it instead of the data, M17, and we're going to change 11 by 12. And here again we have this. Why is this useful? Because then you can just bring it down and all of the countries are updated, country and cities are updated for everyone around. What are we going to do now is we're going to look into knowing if they are female or male by just adding a letter. So for this, we're going to use the left formula. It extracts a specified number of characters from the left-hand side of a cell. For example, you can use this when you look at area codes from a phone number and you want to know which country is it linked to. So here, let's do F and M. So I want to know if they're female or male. So what I want to do is I want to click on enter and I want to use the left. And then I know that female starts with an F, male starts with an M. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into data. I would select the gender, which here is female, and then they ask you the number of data that you want. I just want personally 1, and then you close the parenthesis, and then you're going to have an F. However, again, here we have the same issue where you have to go and filter per name before finding if it's an F or if it's an M. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do, again, a VLOOKUP. So again, I'm going to do this quickly as we have seen it previously. So here we have, now that we have the VLOOKUP, we can just extend until the end, and then we will know everyone who is female and everyone who is male. Now, let's use the equation if, the formula if. The formula if checks whether a condition is true or false and returns a specified value depending on the result. This could be useful for calculating bonuses based on sales figure. So here, what we're going to do is we're going to do so I'm going to do female, and we're going to do enter. If the F and M that we found earlier, so let's double click on if this is equal to female, to F, then value if it's true, we can say, for example, we can say it's a 1, and value if it's a false, it's a 0. Or we could literally just say quotation mark true, quotation mark false. And then we can just close the parenthesis. Let me just change the A. Again, as I've said before, let me just update the end because it will not recognize it on this computer here. So here again, we have a true. I can just bring it down. And then we have true, false, false, true. The last equation will be the higher year. For this, we're going to use a right equation. This formula extracts a specified number of characters from the right-hand side of a cell, and this could be useful for extracting file extension from file's name or postcodes, part of the postcodes, etc. So for us, we want to know the year, so we're going to do equal. We're going to write, and then we want to look at the text. So again, the text that we're looking into is the higher date, and we want to know the 4 last numbers because it's a year. And then we close the parenthesis, enter. So as you can see here, it brings it as 5637. And this is because this is number. If you go back into the data, you will see that if I turn this into a number, it will give the last few at 5637. So the dates are a bit more complicated. I can quickly show you an easier way to do is you just do equal and then year, and then you enter year, and then you open the parenthesis, and then you select the year. Again, you can do a VLOOKUP, which I've done before, and then you will be able to see the year. I can just then select here and then just a text, and then it's going to give you the year of the higher year. So let me quickly do a VLOOKUP so we can have the year for everyone here. So here we have. So today we have been able to use 10 different formulas such as a SUMIF, average, COUNTIF, max, min, the VLOOKUP, ifs, the concatenate, and left or right formulas. With those formulas, you should be able to do any type of data analysis, basic or non-basics. Feel free to go and have a look into how to create an interactive dashboard using pivot table in the video just here in the link. I hope this video helped you. Let us know what else you might need help with. We are able to help you with everything and anything.
Indeed, everything and anything.